Overview of the CSA Speaking Rubric, a video about the California Spanish Assessment, brought to you by the California Department of Education.
My name is Carla Nájera Kunzmiller, and I work for the Sacramento County Office of Education. There is one rubric to score all speaking constructed response questions on the CSA. This rubric is intended to provide guidance to educators who are evaluating student high school speaking responses. The scoring rubric is not a secure document. Educators may use the speaking rubric to assign scores to locally developed assessment responses that students provide as part of their schoolwork so they can become familiar with the speaking rubric throughout the school year. In addition, educators, students, parents, and guardians can access the speaking rubric to better understand the expectations for students who take the CSA. This speaking rubric is a holistic rubric. Educators should consider the rubric descriptors for each score and determine overall which score best fits each student response, considering appropriate grade level expectations. The notes section preceding the speaking rubric provides additional considerations for educators as they score student responses. For example, one bullet defines the term effective language as including noun and verb phrases using accurate vocabulary. The second bullet lets the scorer know that minor factual inaccuracies or omissions are acceptable. And lastly, the third bullet notes that it is acceptable for the response to include mispronunciation of any word as long as it does not interfere with the meaning. This clarification is provided to ensure all educators follow the same approach in scoring. It is also listed at the top of the rubric to call attention to the fact that the presence or absence of effective language, according to the definition, is relevant in determining the appropriate score for a response at the given grade level. It is important to know that the speaking rubric has been extensively reviewed and used by educators. Prior to speaking questions becoming operational, educators provided valuable feedback on various elements of the rubric, and this final version of the rubric reflects their feedback. Now let's go over each score point in the rubric. For a score point of 2, the response successfully answers the prompt. The response successfully addresses the speaking prompt with appropriate details and support. Little or no listener effort is required to interpret meaning. Ideas are generally cohesive and connected. The response is spoken clearly in formal Spanish and includes appropriate and effective language. The asterisk after effective language is a reminder of the note at the top of the rubric. Grammar and word choice are appropriate. Speech is generally smooth and sustained. Errors in pronunciation or intonation do not impede meaning. You'll notice that the descriptors for a score point of 2 do not require the response to be flawless. A few minor errors are acceptable. Now let's talk about the descriptors for a score point of 1. For a score point of 1, the response attempts to answer the prompt. The response partially addresses the speaking prompt with limited details or support. Some listener effort is required to interpret meaning. Ideas are not connected in a consistent manner. Grammar and word choice are simple or repetitive. Errors may impede meaning. Spanish language is occasionally inappropriate or ineffective. Again, effective language is described in the notes section. The absence of a noun, verb, and accurate vocabulary would lead a scorer to determine that the language used in the response was ineffective. Next, speech may be slow, choppy, or halting. And lastly, pronunciation or intonation may impede meaning. Oftentimes, it becomes clear that the student may not have fully understood either the passage or the prompt, which then leads to a response that hasn't been fully developed. A response that orients to the passage or prompt in any way, even if it's one word, earns a score point of 1 because it shows some understanding at a very basic level. Now let's move on to a score point of 0. This response typically falls into one of 4 categories. The response is not on topic. It only repeats the prompt, or it's in a language other than Spanish. The response also would be scored a 0 if it consists only of no sé, is unintelligible, or provides no response. Remember, a response that orients to the passage or prompt in any way, even if it's one word, earns a score point of 1, not 0. The speaking rubric for the CSA is located on the Practice and Training Test Resources webpage, which can be reached from the homepage of the CAASPP and ELPAC website. Since educators have access to the speaking rubric throughout the year, we suggest they familiarize the students with the rubric in advance to taking the CSA. In a moment, we're going to view an example of a teacher sharing the rubric with her students. She starts out by providing her students with a question to think about. Then she builds in time for students to share their responses with a partner and consider what score point they earned. Lastly, they justify their score. Let's take a look.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about this new speaking rubric that you see right here. This is called a holistic rubric for the California Spanish Assessment. This rubric will be a way that we get to check and assess our speaking skills in Spanish. This rubric will be a guide to help us understand what's expected in our responses. Ok, hoy vamos a practicar a hablar. Van a decirles a sus compañeros, son un grupo pequeño, ¿quién es tu persona favorita y por qué? Okay, ¿me pueden dar detalles? Den los detalles, por favor. ¿Quién es tu persona favorita? Piensen, tomen un momento. ¿Vale? Ok, hablen con su compañero. Oraciones completas. Diana, just talk to him. Tell him quién es tu persona favorita. Huh? Okay. Got a complete sentence? Okay. Done there? You tell her. ¿Quién es tu persona favorita? Okay, dale.
Mi persona favorita es mi prima Rosalie porque ella es bien buena conmigo y hicimos todos juntas y es mi más buena amiga.
Okay, so she gave details, but does she meet all of the requirements? Okay, talk about it with your partner one more time. Remember, they have to meet all of the requirements.
Did she? Yes. I would say some, but some minor errors. But I still believe that that deserved it too.
Estaba en el punto de que qué fue lo tópico y lo dijo bien. Y no lo dijo el otro de esa de español.
A ver, Diego, ¿por qué les diste un 1?
A Isabel yo le di un 1 porque a ella le podían faltar más detalles de lo que dijo y también se tuvo que repetir una vez.
Ok, muy bien, gracias, buena observación.
All in all, there are various ways to provide students with opportunities throughout the year to practice responding aloud to questions and using the rubric to justify scores. Thank you for watching.